Welcome back. You're watching the Independent Republican Mike Graham right here on TalkTV. Now, for the latest in the Israel-Gaza situation, the Israel Defense Force claims it's found the largest ever Hamas tunnel, big enough for cars to drive through. Let's get the latest from TalkTV's war correspondent, Tom Mutch, who's live in Tel Aviv for us tonight. Tom, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us.
Not a problem. Glad to be on.
As we look around the world, you know, the UN has postponed what was going to be a vote tonight, but there's sort of growing pressure coming from the Biden White House and from the British government as well to find some kind of solution, some kind of ceasefire. But it doesn't look like Benjamin Netanyahu's going for it. What's the scene there in Tel Aviv?
So it's a bit of a glum mood at the moment here. There's a kind of a growing consensus that a lot of what we thought would happen in the war is not actually happening. Hamas are still very, very much entrenched in their strongholds, both in North and South Gaza. The IDF have now been fighting for more than 2 months, and they still haven't been able to dislodge them. There was a horrible situation where 3 hostages were killed by their own troops, by IDF forces over the weekend, that actually sparked pretty large protests in cities like Tel Aviv and Haifa that we hadn't really seen since October the 7th. And there is also the growing sense of complete isolation. You know, one of the reasons that the UN General Assembly vote was postponed was because apparently the Americans are coming round to the idea of voting for a motion that would at least include something like a humanitarian pause or a limited ceasefire, which is something that they declined to do so far. So yeah, people are feeling rather grim and a bit pessimistic here at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, because we see these tunnel pictures and a lot of people are saying, look, it's all very well saying let's have a ceasefire, but what else is in those tunnels that we don't even know about, that nobody's found yet? And Israel quite rightly says, well, you know, if they hadn't spent all the money that they got over the years on all of these tunnel networks, they might have actually been able to help the population a little bit more instead of spending it all on sort of the terror of a war campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty blindingly obvious that when you look at those tunnels, that many of them could hold plenty of civilians who wanted to shelter from the bombing. Yeah. Doesn't make the bombing any less horrible to look at, but it is very obvious that those tunnels are being used for Hamas commanders, Hamas soldiers, and them alone. So, and this is what people have been saying for a long time, that a lot of the aid money has gone effectively to rockets and to, you know, basically funding Hamas's arsenal rather than it has gone to help the people of Gaza. Now, whether you agree with calls for a ceasefire, you agree with the Israeli bombing campaign or not, I think it is fairly obvious that Hamas has done a very terrible job looking after the people under its control and command.
Yeah, no question at all. But in terms of the actual exchange of fire, I assume rockets are still coming into Tel Aviv on a daily basis. We don't really hear much talk about the hostages anymore. The big hostage story this weekend was the fact that 3 hostages were accidentally killed by Israeli's defense forces. But I don't hear anything really now in the media about the hostages that are still being held in Gaza.
So actually, Tel Aviv's been fairly quiet recently. Last week we had one big day where there were a lot of rockets fired, but I haven't heard an alarm since then. So it's been almost a week really since rockets have been fired. It appears a lot of the Hamas arsenal has been fairly well taken care of. Now, the thing about the other hostages is that many of them are either soldiers on active duty that were taken from bases around the Gaza Strip, around the Gaza envelope, or they're young men of fighting age who Hamas are going to say, well, they're soldiers, and they're going to demand a much higher price for them in negotiations than they are for the mainly women and children and foreign nationals that were released during the last swap several weeks ago. So, however, apparently the Israeli war cabinet has finally allowed the Mossad top negotiator to go back to Qatar and try and sit down with the intermediaries in the Hamas office in Qatar and try and negotiate a final hostage swap for the remaining hostages. But that is all backroom deals that we don't really have access or foreknowledge of at the moment.
No, exactly. Tom, thanks very much indeed. Tom Mutch there reporting into us from what he says is a relatively quiet Tel Aviv at the moment when it comes to Hamas rockets. But let's not forget that baby that was taken at 9 months as a hostage is still being held in Gaza as a hostage, as a baby. So let's not get too carried away with the fact that somehow, it's all Palestinian related news that we bring you.